Been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you walked out on parties because of the Ralph.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant. Welcome to the Ralph Rant. It's time for the post-game show. The Buffalo Bills defeating the Miami Dolphins 31-21. And we'll look at that score at the end of the game. Many people who didn't watch it and think that the Bills romped. But guys, I'm going to tell you what you did just see. Because what you just saw was a division game. And division games are like that. The Dolphins, desperate for a win, coming off their 0-2. Division games are different, and you know that. And the other thing that you saw is you saw what going undefeated in the season looks like. Because it's not all about crushing teams by 20 the whole way through. That doesn't matter. The hallmark of a team that can go undefeated is one that can win the close games. And if you go back and look at some of the Patriots games you've seen, some other great teams even, for example, they weren't undefeated except for the 1 year, but many of those Patriots years, even the last year, the Chiefs, with all the close games they won, that's how this works. That's how this works. But that was tough. I will tell you, I will never be able to do a live stream covering the game as it goes through because I will yell too much. There are too many expletives. I will pound the desk too much, which I did all of those things this evening because it was tough to watch at times. But we're going to get into it all. Thanks very much for joining me. Let's take a look at the comments. I see we've got some of the usual crowd in here already. Vito B was in here with his comments early on and holding me to my predictions from earlier in the preseason, even in the offseason, and some of those vids. I appreciate that. I plan on being held to them. Who else do we have in the house? We've got Charles Stone in the house with us now. And we have others coming in. I know some other guys that are on the way. We were not supposed to start the stream until 11:45. I'm getting it going early. It is a work night. People have to try to go to sleep after this one, but we'll get into actually what it was. I've got my normal pages of notes that I came up with here. And I tell you, when I got up today, and I was thinking a lot about this game last night, and I got up today and I didn't have a great feeling. I did have a sense of worry, of apprehension, because it is Bills Dolphins. And once again, the important thing to recognize about football is that you can analyze the heck out of it. And we do. We look at numbers, we look at trends, we look at point spreads, we look at teams' records. We get the idea of how they're going to do on offense, on defense. What kind of EPA do they have on their third down rushing offense? What kind of EPA does the defense have late downs? What does it look like when your opponent's in the high red zone? There are so many examples of it. And you can use those to define what has happened in a game or what you think will happen in a game. But there are most certainly other factors, other energies at play. And it's what makes football king sport. NFL football is the topmost sport on the planet because of the possible complexities, because of the level of competition. And those energies, a lot of them are without measure or even without units, but you see how they manifest. And especially the things that go into playing on a Thursday night. And division games, again, are always tough. But let's just go through it real quick here. And we'll talk about what some of your comments are in a moment. But we got started the game. The Dolphins, a big kick return to start. And that only reinforced the apprehension I had. They got the ball out to the 50. They had the short play. And the run stops were okay, but there were players in space, wide open for throws. They were getting guys on outside zone, a couple of screens even outside, where the Dolphins' speed, Devon Achane, of course, and even Waddle and Hill, who had bigger games tonight than they've had all season, essentially. Of course, Devon Achane was the leading rusher and leading catcher of the ball for the Dolphins coming into this game. But, of course, again, it's a division game, and you want to knock off that division foe that's been beating you time and time again. That had to be the Dolphins' mindset going in. So anyway, the Bills get down 7-0. And, of course, sometimes I believe that, and I think Belichick was the one that used this a lot early on with the Patriots, and you sometimes can rationalize that that's what you're seeing, that maybe the Bills' defense is doing a little bit of a rope-a-dope on the first drive. Let's see what they want to do, and let's allow them to do it, to let them have a feeling of confidence, the Dolphins that is, in what they're trying to do, and then we turn around and try to stop it. And that almost felt the way, because then the Bills, of course, get the ensuing kickoff. I think that was a kind of a strange foul on Jackson Hawes there on the kickoff return. But then we got into it. The Bills started running the ball very well. Early on, Dion Dawkins fairly pancaked Zach Sealer, if you saw it, over on the offensive left side. And that was, I think it was an inside zone run from James Cook, I believe. And then the Bills marched at 85 yards, of course, starting from the 15-yard line after that personal foul on the kick return. Kincaid, looking great tonight. Wearing his jersey tonight. Great catch and run, a great catch for the touchdown, actually. And he had some great blocking later on in the game. Then let's say I've got the Bills rope-a-dope note here, and then the Finns, another good return, but a block in the back, and then they go 3 and out, and Tua nearly fumbles there, and then the Bills get the ball back and get the Cook is running well, my note says. Elijah great on the jet sweep to get a first down. Kincaid was on when he got that catch, I believe, down near the goal line. That was the end of the first quarter. And then Keon Coleman, his first catch gets them to first and goal. I guess my notes aren't good enough on Kincaid. He didn't get that close. And then Hawes and I noted that Jackson Hawes and Alec Anderson both on the field at the same time. Haven't seen that a lot. And then Hawes chips and goes into the end zone. Josh gives him the push pass. And we have the score, and then the Bills are now up 14-7, continuing. And then we had a better kickoff stop on that ensuing kickoff, and then once again a 3 and out for the Dolphins. Next drive, Cook is a beast. Shavers got his first catch for first down. That looked very good. And Buffalo moves down, and they did not make the field goal, I believe, if that's where Prater missed. Again, I was so freaked out, my notes are screwed up. But we get to the end of the first half, and a very late drive by the Dolphins results in 14-14 at the half. I'm not really worried that much at this point. I know the Dolphins are going to play them tough. I know the Bills are getting the ball in the second half. That helps quite a bit. So we get down to the end of that second quarter. All right, the Bills receive, get the drive. Kincaid was great. I think that was maybe the drive. He caught a couple more balls on and got close. We're then up 21-14 14. And that may have been Kincaid's touchdown catch, I believe, there. Again, I try to keep good notes. There's no way I'll ever be able to do an in-game live cast following the game because I just get too angry. Like I said earlier, I pound the table. It just would not work. And that even hurts my note-taking. Benford goes down at the end of that drive, and but it's a 4th down. Codrington almost muffs the punt. He recovers. And then the Bills go 3 and out with a couple of runs and a short pass. Why are they not throwing downfield? We knew this Dolphin secondary was somewhat suspect coming in. Then we see Benford is back, which was good. I normally do not care to listen to either Chris Collinsworth and now Kirk Herbstreit. He belongs back on College Football Saturday. His analysis is college level, not pro level. It is tiresome. And I do have to add here, just real quick, Amazon has had Thursday Night Football now for 3 seasons, 4 seasons, whatever it's been. And you would think at some point they would be able to understand the kind of bandwidth they need to broadcast this. First of all, they only allow you to go 10 seconds forward if you're paused for any reason. And you'll try to hit 10 seconds and the wheel of death spins around as you're waiting to get there. And then it tunes back in and it looks like I'm in 1972 watching the Dolphins' perfect season because it's like less than standard definition. It's like what we had when we had foil wrapped down the aerials trying to tune in the game in Western New York. And it takes a couple seconds for it to get right. So, note to Amazon, get your shit together and get the broadcast where you've got enough bandwidth where people are not struggling to see this and struggling to have to get a clear picture. A lot of people watch football, just in case you weren't aware of that. Anyway, I digress. So then the Dolphins drive and score. Tyreek Hill beats Benford. It's 21-all. The defense not getting enough pressure. Secondary is getting gashed. Outside speed kills, and the tackling blows. How many times did we see defensive backs commit to either Waddle or A-Chain out in the flat after a catch and committing to them rather than caging the guy and waiting for some help? But no, we apparently haven't learned that yet. So that was difficult to watch at times. Yes, the Bills did get a couple good tackles for loss at times, and the run stops were decent, a little worse as it went on, but again, just the bad tackling. Then the Bills got fortunate on the ensuing drive. Once again, it looked like it was going to be either a 3 and out or a 5 and out. My notes aren't good enough here. And there was a roughing the kicker on Cameron Johnston. And a good job. I don't think he had to act on that at all, but definitely a decent job. And we had the Bills drive continued after getting the 1st and 10 as a result of the roughing the kicker. We had the Shakir touchdown and a great block by Kincaid on that play, if you saw it, to free up Shakir to get to the end zone. Again, 86, great game. And then the Dolphins get the ball back with 7:17 remaining. And my note here is effing Dolphins wide open. And it got to the point where they got down. He was either in the high red zone or just outside the 20. And I'm like, okay, Bills, they're threatening here to tie this game up. What are you going to do? And then, of course, they answered. Terrell Bernard steps in front of the receiver, intercepts Tua, and takes it nearly to midfield. And then we had a 2nd and 16. Elijah Moore, a great night tonight. Listen, Elijah Moore is definitely an asset to this team. And again, as I said it on a previous show of mine, the equation, the math equation here is Elijah more, Curtis less. There's no equality there because Curtis Samuel, again, a healthy scratch, and Elijah Moore is playing very well. And what we can hope is there is a team out there that needs a receiver badly, with the exception of the Chiefs, although you might want to send Samuel there. Who knows? But no, not there. But in any event, a team out there that wants to trade for this and at least take up some of that salary cap hit that the Buffalo Bills would be facing were they to remove Curtis Samuel from the roster. And you're going to have to create a roster spot. You know that's coming, and it probably will end up being in a position like that because you are going to need Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi when they are able to come back. And then Buffalo gets to the 2-minute warning. They've got the Dolphins taking their timeouts. The Bills get down to a 3rd and 10, I believe. They get about 5 of it. It's 4th and 5. Josh lines up in the shotgun. Looks like he's going to go for it and does not. And then they bring Prater out for the 53-yarder. And, of course, there was a little trepidation because Prater had missed that kick extremely wide left. I mean, by an order of magnitude from the goalpost. And that the kick was that bad tells me that there was something else that went on in that field goal, the one he missed. That's too bad of a miss for not to be some other factor at play there. But then Prater, for the 2nd week in a row, comes out and nails it from 53 yards, and the Bills win this game. And again, you have to go back to the fact, with all the criticisms we can make of the defense, and we're going to get to your comments here very shortly, but with all the criticism you can make on the defense, the one thing that is true is, again, this is a Thursday night game. It is a short week. It's a division game, and it's a division game against a desperate opponent. And we know how division games go. I mean, I can go back and look at how many examples, and I've stated these before, of perhaps the Patriots during their dynasty and how many close games they won. Remember the Monday night opener when Leotis McKelvin fumbles the kick? The Bills were up, I think, 25-19 or something like that. Fumbles the kickoff. The Bills could have won that game, and the Patriots get out of there with the skin on their back, and that's it. And of course, I hearken back to the Dolphins' perfect season in 1972. The team that came closest to beating the Dolphins was the Buffalo Bills, the lowly Bills at this point. I think, Kay Stevenson was the coach of the Bills at that point, and if not for a bad call on Bills defensive back Robert James that allowed the Dolphins a first down, the Dolphins probably don't win that game, and that was about the same time of year as this. I think it was the 3rd or 4th game of the season. So, listen, it's not easy to win in the NFL. And yes, we are expecting the Bills to be great because they've taught us that. It's our expectation now. It's not our expectation that they be bad. But indeed, football games are hard to win. It's hard to win in the NFL. They're all pros. They're all talented. They are all paid to be out there. So the Bills maybe get away with one, or that's how great teams are able to manage what they do. And you can call it whatever you want. Once again, Josh Allen is not Superman in this game. He rushed for a few times, some good throws and so forth. The push pass for the touchdown to Haas was great. And you don't do that unless you're relaxed out there. And that's the one positive I saw. We saw one shot of Josh on the sideline kind of having a 1,000-yard stare looking at something in the far distance. It wasn't even there. But then when he got out on the field in the second half, I could see the look in his face, and I could see it was going to be okay. Again, it looks like we might have gotten out without too many injury problems. Certainly, Benford went down, but I want you guys to remember something when watching injuries, okay? This is, and this is more true often than not. I don't know any of the Buffalo Bills organization at all. However, my parents, who reside in Buffalo, and my father's no longer with us, my mother still is, but have Dr. White as their doctor. Tom White is a Bills team physician, and a long time ago, he told my father an interesting story when he was at an appointment seeing Dr. White. And Dr. White indicated that when you see injuries on the football field and you see that the player that it's injured is writhing in pain right at the first go, as soon as he goes down, often those injuries are not as serious. And are the injuries where a guy goes down and doesn't seem to be in that much pain, especially at times when you see a guy with a non-contact injury, they'll just go down and be sitting there. But they've got a season-ending ACL tear or something of that nature. So when you do see these injuries, remember that if a guy goes down writhing, a lot of times that initial pain is indicative of the fact that it's not that serious of an injury. I don't know exactly why, but that's from the Bills team physician. So let's get to your comments here, because there are a bunch of them, and we're going to start out right from the top here, because Vito B was on the stream waiting, and he's saying so much for the 85 defense, which is something I predicted the Bills might look like by week 11. That was my prediction, that by week 11, the Bills defense could possibly be compared to the 85 Bears defense. Now, I based some of that on the fact that getting Larry Ogunjobi, but especially Michael Hoyt back after their suspensions, would play a large part into that. Because we really didn't see the pass rush be extremely effective. Certainly, Tua was not sacked on 53% of his pressures, as we have seen thus far this season. And we did see the Bills get him off the spot at times. And one time he did throw downfield and got a wide open Jalen Waddle, I believe. But other times when they did get him off the spot, he would throw long and out of bounds, getting out of the play. So that was happening at times, but I think there was only one sack by the Bills. And that still concerns me, because this was an offensive line that had some tomato cans on it. You had some rookies, you had some guys with inexperience, and you have a small center, very athletic, but small center for the Dolphins. So, but what you did see was Tua getting rid of the ball. His time to throw this season has been much longer. His trigger's been much longer than it's been in earlier game, the two earlier games this season. Tonight he was under 2.5, and when you're getting rid of the ball that quickly, that's when you have to watch. The need for Maxwell Hairston and his speed at corner really showed up. I do remember that I think Trey White was down for a little bit. I believe we saw him back on the field. You guys let me know something about that also. I'm taking notes. I'm using voice to text at time to take notes. And the last person I want on my notes is Kirk Herbstreit. So I do watch the games silent often. Sorry, I did not get enough water during that game. Anyway, point made, Vito B, on that. And he actually went on to continue to say that he's agreed with me about the defense, but I forgot who's coaching the defense. And I had to. It's hard to disagree with that. The problem I do have with it is the feeling that it's Sean McDermott who is so responsible for this because he's a defensive coach. I do believe Sean McDermott has done well as a defensive-minded head coach in leaving the defensive coordinator position behind and actually, I don't need this thing anymore, actually becoming a real head coach. And I think that's what he is. And I do not believe he is looking over Bobby Babbitt's shoulder during these games. The Bills certainly still have some issues in the secondary, and we probably really missed Ed Oliver and Matt Milano tonight, probably more than we did last week. Of course, Milano went out during the game. We did not have Ed. Probably not going to have either of them, maybe even next Sunday. Bills do have, though, now a mini bye, having played on the Thursday night. And getting a win on a Thursday night is huge. But we'll move right on, and I really have to list my own comment here that I made back to Vito, which is, yeah, the edge of my seat is worn off into a pile of dust on the floor. And I now watch the games up in the studio here and preparing for the show. My normal position has been downstairs in front of the big screen. I never sit during a Bills game. There's a area on the hardwood that you can see of 20 years of my pacing back and forth between the left side of the television and back. So I don't sit for those, but certainly tonight, edge of my seat. And yes, I've got a pile of dust still here on the floor where the edge of the seat is worn off. But I did declare by the end of the year it will be the 85 Bears, so I was premature on knocking the defense. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Not necessarily, and I think the defense does need to be complete with everybody on board. You need Ed Oliver, you need Matt Milano, and you need Michael Hoyt. This pass rush, I think, will change dramatically when we get Michael Hoyt involved. And I believe that there are also packages still in the bag, Ryan Nielsen's bag that is, that have not been shown and will not be shown during the early part of this season, during this quote-unquote manageable stretch of games where we're expecting the Bills to win those and expecting them to get to 6-0. And no one said it would be a cakewalk. Certainly the win against the Ravens is still what the hell just happened there, right? Against the Jets, many will say that it was more that the Jets lost that game than the Bills won. I think that's horseshit, but you can say that and you can probably argue it. And tonight, a Thursday night, a desperate division opponent, their season, maybe their head coach's job on the line. I think the Dolphins did enough tonight where McDaniel is not going to be fired. That's my prediction. And we'll see how it goes, but definitely the Dolphins gave the Bills all they could handle. And, of course, again, the 10-point win by the Bills really doesn't really tell the story of the game. I know that, and I know all of you know that. Let's move right on here. Get to every one of your comments here. Josh Allen, the fastest quarterback to 300 career touchdowns, throwing or passing. I did not know that. I did not see that stat. Had to pause at a commercial one time to let the dogs out. So thanks for letting me know those things, guys. I don't have everything here, especially if you've heard anything on injuries. I would normally hang out and try to listen to McDermott's post-game presser before going live. Again, it's late tonight. It's a work night for many people that have to get up. So I wanted to get the show on the road and rather than hold it up any longer. So that's great news for Josh. Charles Stone in the house here with Bernard, the save of the game with the interception. And, of course, we were calling for that. And my daughter, who is at college and watching the game with her roommates, and calls me right after and said that, yeah, I was screaming, the Bills need a turnover, she was saying. And that was at the same time, I'm sure I was shouting, okay, they're in the high red zone. What are you going to do about it, Buffalo? And Bernard, that was great because it looked like he baited into that throw a little bit by holding off to the receiver's right and then jumping in front of that pass and getting down there. And good that he got some yardage on it. And got really the Bills more or less cinched the game, although I was not at all comfortable until the clock read 0:00. And only at that point was I actually comfortable. And then Charles Stone watching the stream of the game on Discord, and it was nice to see they were using the WKBW feed. Really? So it was streamed on Discord, and then they had it locked up with Chris Brown and Eric Wood's call. That is great. I would like to know more about how you got to that. I used to try to do that, and when I was watching downstairs, I've got the bigger speakers up here in the studio, and of course you cannot tune in and listen to the Bills' actual broadcast of the game on a mobile device. The NFL prevents that, but you can from a desktop computer. So I used to be able to get that locked up, but now you find that there are delays, of course, in the stream, and then there are delays, of course, in the radio broadcast, and sometimes they joggle those delays. Maybe they used to do that. I haven't tried it in a while yet. In a while, I haven't tried to do that sync up, but it's far better and far more informative. Now, back in the day when we were getting our radios via the radio's built-in antenna, not through any satellite feed or Wi-Fi feed or anything over the internet, and we were using the television antenna, perhaps holding it in a weird direction to get the reception right to watch the games, both of those signals were arriving to our listening or watching devices at the speed of light, and they were identical. And so it was easy to sync up the game, and you could always listen to the van call the game and not have to listen to the TV broadcast. Again, I don't know how Al Michaels was tonight. I don't mind Al, but Al seems to have turned very bitter at times, especially when the games aren't as good. And of course, Thursday Night Football has not always had the best games. And again, Kirk Herbstreit is, I'm just going to say he's as bad as Chris Collinsworth, but they're bad in two completely different ways. Chris Collinsworth has got some of the arrogance going on, and he's got that voice that sounds like he smoked a couple of joints before he went on, because sometimes his comments sound like he smoked a couple of joints coming on. And then, of course, he lost everybody. I think the big point he lost everybody, Collinsworth that is how he insulted the Eagles before they ran the Philly special and won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles at quarterback. So, but nonetheless, I don't like listening to Herbstreit either. Herbstreit, again, to me, just sounds like he is still commenting on college games, and might as well send him a T-shirt that says Ron Obvious and some of the things he says. I don't hear a lot of good or deep insights, and then I often hear them talking over the referee when he's going to call something. And for all that's involved in just having to do one game per week, like Amazon does, they just cannot match what Sunday Night Football does in terms of the presentation, and of course with the notable exception of Chris Collinsworth on Sunday night. But otherwise, it's pretty good. And anyway, let's go on with these comments here. Fume Drummer is in the house. What's going on? And I got to hear about your drum kit at some point. This game was ugly. The Bills' defense looked like Swiss cheese, and the offense never went deep. And I had that very same complaint. Why are you not going downfield? And certainly, guys can get open. I mean, Elijah Moore has the speed. Shavers can get down there. I don't know where it is, and if it's game plan wise, why wouldn't you? Because you know the Dolphins secondary had some issues. I mean, to the point where number 23 of the Dolphins, which I believe is the safety, on that one play had a untouched corner run blitz and knocks James Cook down for a loss of a yard or so. Perhaps the Bills felt that the running game was going to be better throughout. James Cook was a beast early on. First quarter, into the second quarter. Third quarter wasn't as great, and then he did did produce some again in the fourth quarter. So, but that's definitely the case, and these are questions that we can ask why, and it will be interesting to see what the film shows, because a lot you really can't tell until you see that, but some of it was obvious. Fume Drummer again here. Prime Video feed pixelated like 1995. Luckily, local to me, WKBW had a solid feed. So I guess that's the case because I do not live in Bills country. I would not get local broadcasts, but it could be seen then, I guess, locally on your regular station. And then, of course, you don't have to deal with that. Amazon is just, it's just ridiculous how they have that set up. And even how you can't really catch the start of the game because they start their Thursday night broadcast at 7 p.m. and you have to wait 75 minutes before the game starts. And it would be fine if they had a button you could press to go to the start of the game, or because it's recorded that, okay, I want to start at the start of the game. Otherwise, if you are starting in late and you want to do that, you've got to start at the beginning at 7 o'clock and just find your way through their clunky interface on this. And I don't know, at some point somebody's going to bitch loud enough because you don't see that kind of 1995 pixelated look anywhere but Amazon. And they're the one outfit that has one game a week to do. And we saw the YouTube game to open the season on the Friday night when the Chargers beat the Chiefs in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And the YouTube feed was perfect the whole way. So, guys, take some lessons here. Let's keep on going here in the comments. Boy, there are a lot, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me here. Fume Drummer again, doesn't Amazon own half the country's bandwidth with their AWS server farms? What the hell, exactly? And isn't there one of their huge server farms? I don't know if it's theirs or not. That is, it's along Campbell Road, in it's in Niagara County. Once you cross the bridge on 270 going into Niagara County, and as you're heading north, it's on the right side, and that is a huge server farm. I don't know whose that is, but anyway, the going on here, the game came down to roughing the kicker penalty and the Bills' interception. Should have never been that close. Well, you can say that, but that's why they play the games. And again, you cannot discount the fact that this Dolphins team was desperate, and that this was a Thursday night primetime game where they're going to be in front of everybody. Their previous two games were both local market situations. So they're going to be in front of the entire nation. They're playing their absolute nemesis. If you can't get up for that game, what can you get up for? So, yeah, it should have never been that close, certainly. But these plays, the roughing the kicker and the interception, they are both 1 and 2, in this case, plays out of the approximate 130 to 140 plays during the game. And even though the Bills didn't have to travel, it was a Thursday night. It's hard to say, but we'll see how they look coming back at home on a nice 1 p.m. start versus the Saints a week from Sunday. But for now, at least we can certainly go into this Sunday and watch the games without as much emotional implication or having to worry about the Bills to see what happens there. Going on here with Fume Drummer, another comment here, and the Bills' secondary needs attention. Player trades or coaching improvements need to happen. Well, I think that secondary is still developing and still growing. And I think we probably need, and I'll have to see the film to understand a lot of what was happening. It didn't feel like Taylor Rapp was very visible tonight. You saw Cole Bishop on a couple of tackles, but I did not see Taylor Rapp train wrecking Waddle or Tyreek Hill. And there was even a comment in the first game versus Baltimore where Taylor Rapp looked as though he made a business decision when King Henry was approaching him. So I don't know what's going on there. And again, Trey White, yes, he's demonstrated some physicality last week, but let's face it, versus Hill and Waddle, that kind of speed. Now, Benford doesn't even have that speed, but his technique and his anticipation is great. The team obviously needs Max Hairston to get back in with us. So we'll see how long that takes. He's got one more game on IR, so after the Saints game, which would be a week from this coming Monday, another 10, 11 days, we'll see if he's back to practice, and we'll see if they are close to activating him. They're going to need to get him some work. He needs minutes on the field, and he especially needs minutes versus the Saints, versus the Patriots. And the Saints, of course, they've got Spencer Rattler playing their offense, and the team looks rather pedestrian. And as much as we want, as people want us to believe that Drake May is the second coming of something, I classify Drake May as not too far from where J.J. McCarthy is with the Vikings. I just don't see it yet with that. And of course, you're talking a first-year coach in that situation, also with the Patriots. But back to Max Hairston, we need to see Max Hairston on the field, and then get him through the bye with some more practice, and then again get him out down in Carolina against Bryce Young and the Panthers, and get some games under his belt, get those minutes under his belt, so we can go bring the Chiefs in the house in the next game and handle that situation. All right, we've got some more. We've got so many comments here, guys. It looks like we've got 42 now, 44 in the house. Please go ahead and comment. I'll stay on here as long as it takes to get through every single one of your comments. This channel is not so big like that one that's called something Squad. Oh, yeah, Bill Squad, where it gets thousands. No, I'm listening and hearing every one of you. And you guys do have a choice as to where you go get your post-game rants, and I very much appreciate you being here in the studio with me and not elsewhere. That's great and very much appreciated. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and punch subscribe, because we're doing a lot of live shows now. We're covering everything. This is the Ralph Rant. It's a little bit different take. I am not going to focus so much on statistics and analytics and film study, even for that matter. My takes are a little bit more narrative, because I believe there's so much more to the game than just looking at it in that cold analytical fashion, although many will certainly do that. And I've got to not scream so much at the game and get so upset, because I even feel it in my voice already here. But nonetheless, we're going to go on here. David Anderson is in the house, and the missed field goal. I had minus 12, rigged game. Well, excuse me. Yeah, boy, I still would like to hear about what went on in that field goal. It was so wide left that it tells me that there was something besides just a bad kick. And you could actually tell it, because it wasn't just the ball end over end going wide. If you saw the close-up replay of it, you can see that the ball actually, it's like it looked like he actually, hit like a duck hook, because that ball had a spin around its vertical axis and just sailed that way, just like it looks like when I'm left-handed, so it looks like when I try to drive the ball and I have to actually face like maybe 90 degrees from the hole to actually get a drive that goes towards it. Well, that's what that kind of looked like, except Prater is right-footed, and that was definitely a pull. Don't know if there was anything going on there with the snap or the set down. They looked fine. There was no fumbling of it. We'll probably hear from Prater, but he does come through with that 53-yard field goal at the end, and that was important, and that felt good to see him hit that. And I think definitely these conditioned kicking balls that we're playing with this season, as opposed to brand new footballs that the kickers have to try to push on the end and try to get them conditioned. You're seeing longer kicks, and the Buffalo Bills are huge beneficiaries of that, simply because you heard Sean McDermott state that we wanted to keep Prater's field goal tries to maybe 45 and in. But he's hit 2 53-yarders now, so certainly the ball has to be helping that. And again, pretty good night for him other than the one missed kick. Let's keep it going here. We've got Ash Ferguson in the house. What's up, Ralph? Well, what's up with you? Thanks for being here. Again, thanks, guys, so much for listening. We've got 47 in the house now. I am actually amazed at that, and so pleased to have you with me here and hearing all your comments, giving you my takes, my feeling, and so forth. And we'll go on here. But Ash responds here also with a good game. And yes, it was a good game. Any win in the NFL is good. There are certainly things that we felt and that we saw during the course of the game that were problems. And certainly the secondary has been scaring the shit out of everyone since Tyson Bagent ate them up in the preseason in Chicago. And yeah, you had Zay Flowers running open, and even last week, Garrett Wilson for the Jets, he was getting open. Justin Fields was not getting him the ball. He actually threw some better balls, it looked like, when they were playing the Steelers. But the other thing that I want to get to here is this math that we do at the beginning of the season. Because what ends up happening, and the example I've used already, I'll use it again. We go into the season thinking, well, Pittsburgh might be something. Aaron Rodgers and that Pittsburgh defense. T.J. Watt, Bobby Herbig, the other guys they've got going at that aggressive, good defensive line, aggressive secondary. And they end up beating the Jets at home just by a couple of points in a game that the Jets should have won. And frankly, Justin Fields looks decent in that game. So we make our assessments. Okay, does that mean that the Steelers' defense is not really that good, or the Jets' offense is that good? And you kind of have these expectations when you go into the season, and then you're putting little marks on the chart where you feel these teams fall based on their performance. So when the Jets just managed to lose to the Steelers, and we get into the next week, and Buffalo basically handles the Jets with ease, you might want to try to say that, okay, well, maybe the Jets aren't that good. And what does that then say about the Steelers and their defense? And then, of course, you see then the Steelers at the same time lose to the Seahawks, who traveled across the country. And that was an early slot, I believe. So they traveled across the country, and truthfully, that game was closer than it sounded because Sam Darnold gets intercepted a couple of times early on, and then, frankly, the Steelers give the game away with apparently a kick receiver that missed that meeting about the new kickoff rules that were established, lets the ball roll into the end zone after he couldn't handle it at the 5, and, of course, the Seahawks dive on it for a touchdown, a gift touchdown, which changed that game. But again, you get to the point where, okay, so maybe the Steelers aren't that good, so that means that the Jets, even though they did very well against the Steelers, doesn't mean that the Jets are that good. And then that gets reinforced by the Bills playing the Jets well. And, of course, there's this national, I think, a national feeling about the Bills that, I mean, you're not seeing them in any of the first hours of some of these shows, such as Colin Cowherd's show, First Things First with Nick Wright and the other two goofballs he's with on there. And so the opinion of the Bills not being that high, and now that might continue. Now, that's not such a bad thing. I don't want the Bills to be put up on the pedestal as being a super great team yet. I'd rather they stay slightly under the radar. And tonight, who knows what the effect of the Dolphins playing the Bills as close as they did will be. The Bills still come away with a win, and that's positive, but we have to really understand that these things are just going to be different and change as we go along and get more games as we go through the season, and you'll start to see the patterns set up. And I think we'll know a lot more, of course, after the end of this weekend when we see where the entire league stands after 3 games. And to that point, not to stay away from the Bills too long here, and I'll get right back to your comments. Thanks again, guys, for so many in the house now. It's excellent to see. Again, if you're new to the channel, it takes a nanosecond to go hit that subscribe button, and then you will get my crazed, sometimes homerish, sometimes irate comments and rants throughout the season. But we're going to be as honest as possible because you guys are holding me to it, and I appreciate that very, very much. But thanks for being here. There's a lot of post-game shows going on right now. Thanks for being at this one. But anyway, the last point on this business of where the league shakes out, of where teams shake out. You saw on CBSSports.com an article about the 0-2 teams and perhaps the worry or urgency that exists. And certainly the apologists for the Chiefs are out in force with them being 0-2. Oh, they played 2 very tough games. They played a division game and lost on a neutral field, thanks, and lost to the Chargers. Of course, they lost on a neutral field also to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And then Patrick Mahomes suffered, for the first time since he's been with Texas Tech, a 3-game losing streak when, again, the Eagles, in very workmanlike fashion, I would almost say workmanlike like the Bills tonight, handle the Chiefs at home, and the Chiefs go to 0-2. So now, the interesting thing to me this weekend is that the Chiefs are visiting the New York Football Giants. And listen, we know that Dallas, for all of the joke that they've been, for the joke of the Micah Parsons trade and so forth, truthfully, Dallas is playing some good football. They played the Eagles to very, very close in the opener, the Thursday night kickoff. And then Dallas played very well this past weekend in their win, leaving them at 1-1. So Dallas is a decent team, but they just got by the Giants. And of course, that was a game that the Giants should have and could have won. Bad play at the end, and then I can't even think of his name. Isn't that ridiculous? That's what age will do to you. Dak Prescott has the long scramble and puts them in position to kick the winning field goal. But I'm here to tell you that as much of a joke as people think the New York Giants are, I don't think so. And Russell Wilson, as much of a joke as we might have thought he was after the season opener, threw for 454 yards in that game this past Sunday. And I think we're really going to see something here because I think that the Chiefs do have dents in them, and that I'm going to be watching that one very, very closely. But let's move on here. Every game is rigged. No, they're not rigged. I've got to, once again, give you some Ralph wisdom here. This is one of my favorite sayings. Well, the first one is the one the Bills need to take advantage of. It's sometimes in these games against supposedly weaker opponents. And that saying is, opportunities are to be seized, not drooled upon. Let's remember that one very good and very well. The Second one is, and it's just concerning this business of the NFL being rigged, and even the comment that somebody had that the NFL is scripted. Of course it's not scripted. You don't have Dawson Knox tipping a pass in game one that's flying towards Khalil Shakir, but Keon Coleman shouts to him, "It's mine, I got it." And you see Keon pull his hands back, or not Keon, but Khalil Shakir pull his hands back, and Keon catches the ball for a touchdown. So it's not scripted, and it's not rigged, and this is the second saying that will prove that out, because nothing is truer on this planet than this saying. Never attribute to treachery that which can be explained by incompetence. And incompetence certainly is rife with the NFL crews. But the Ralph has a lot of predictions, and one prediction I made in a video just before the start of the season was that we would see the NFL Hawkeye system die a peaceful and quiet death. And I don't believe we have seen it yet. A lot of people think that that system was developed in order to spot the ball. No. It's designed in order to measure where the ball is. But the spotting the ball becomes very important. It's supposed to see it on every spot part of the field, but of course in the preseason, the Bills are playing the Giants. There is a catch down in the high red zone by the Bills. Outside of the numbers, it's very close to the first down. So they're going to use Hawkeye. So what does the linesman do after having the ball marked on the field outside the numbers? He picks it up and runs 20 yards to the hash mark. And of course he got the ball within like an index card plus or minus to where it belonged, because we know we can use an index card for that. Because I remember back in the day where one of the famous referees, wasn't Red Cashin, but it's the same guy, I believe, that called the personal foul on Buffalo's opponent, telling him that he's in the pile, giving him the business. That was Jim Kelly he was referring to, getting the business given to him. But you saw those referees and others with measurements where they could take out an index card with the chains and put it between the post and the end of the ball, saying it was fourth down or whatever it would have been, line to gain not met. The Hawkeye system is, and I'm not going to use the language again, but you know the word I'm going to use, is a joke. A joke. It is a Band-Aid, dumb shit approach to try to quell the noise that happened after the title game last January 26th. But it doesn't solve the problem. It's not about spotting the ball. It's about measuring. And when you get rid of chains and put this daffy-ass graphic up on the big board in the stadium, the big video board, showing green grass, the line to gain, and a football thing, give me a break. The chains are theater. They are theater. They're part of what makes it so cool. You got the chain gang running out. It's very accurate. If you know how it works, basically, you've got the chain with the poles on either end. But there's a clip somewhere located in the center. And that clip is attached to the chain. And it has a blade. And they line that blade up precisely with the edge of whatever yard line they're on. And they will normally line it up on one of the fives, 20, 25, 30, 35. So that's a line that goes all the way across. And you'll always be crossing one of those lines when you have the 10 yards that separate the chain. So when they run the chains out onto the field, that blade can once again be placed precisely on that line, and now you can measure where the football is. It works fine. Don't get rid of it. It's theater. It's part of the game. Don't lose it. It's what makes it exciting, those measurements. But you didn't see a single measurement tonight, and you didn't even see a single use of this Hawkeye system. You did see at one point the Dolphins get awarded a first down because you had a really good camera angle down the line, and you could clearly see the ball was past the line to gain. So that's another one of the Ralph's predictions that has come true. Anyway, we're going to move on here with your comments here. Got a bunch of you in the house tonight. They were using Amazon announcers, but was showing on Channel 7. Oh, okay, you're right. But on Channel 7, they will give you what the Amazon feed is, but they make sure that you're not required to get it over the internet if it's a local game. That's part of their rules and so forth. Excuse me while I clear this hoarse throat. Very good. We're back, and let's move on. Fume drummers then. Prater is an unusual 3-step drop as opposed to 5 or more. That rhythm has to be established between the punter and the kicker. You know, that's a very excellent point. And, of course, that can be dialed in. But the thing is, of course, when you have got a new kicker, but also new punter Cameron Johnston, who I'm glad he did not get hurt on that roughing play, because it did look like he grabbed at his shin, but it didn't look like he really got impacted with anything planted, which is good. But you've got 2 of the 3 components of that snap, set down, and kick that are new guys. And as new as Prater is, Cameron Johnston is newer. So that has to be worked out. That's an excellent point. And just the possibility of the timing on that messed that kick up. Thank you for bringing that up, Fume. That's an excellent point. And I missed one here from you. A new punter and hold the kick was fucked from the start. They need to build a rhythm. Yeah, right. So, yeah, exactly on the point. And what do we do? Boy, I went way down the list here in my excitement. There, we're going to catch up here with all these that I had. Going one by one, guys. Every single one of your comments is getting on screen. At some point, I'll probably set up the super chat thing and so forth for the channel. I can do that. I'm just having too much fun with all of you guys here. And why the hell would I not want to listen to every one of your comments and get them on screen? You are part of this show. Thank you for being here. Again, there are some other shows going on out there right now. And this one is about you. I'll give you my takes, but I want to hear yours. And Fume Drummer says, I barely heard Bosa's name called. Not a lot of quarterback pressures by the Bills. Ed Oliver definitely missed. And what you've hit on in that statement there is the key to a good pass rush. You can have great compression ends like Bosa and Groot. And Groot, for all he's done, he's just not demonstrated to be that game wrecker style of pass rusher. And Bosa, of course, did not have the night tonight that he had last week. And when it comes down to it, when you're talking about having Ed Oliver involved, he does better with Ed in there, because what you need for outside pass rush to work is interior pressure. The interior pressure is a must. And, of course, we had the kids out there to start tonight. We had Deion Walker on the field, first play. T.J. Sanders is out there a lot. There was some good run stops and so forth. But, again, those guys need the minutes, too. And I keep on thanking my stars that the Bills have this manageable, supposedly manageable set of games to start this season, and giving them the ability to get some guys minutes and get them acclimated to what they need to do. There's only one way to learn how to play great professional football, and that is to play professional football. You've got to be on the field. There is no substitute for it. Fume Drummer, you will know this. You've been in bands like I've been in bands. I see the Rock Doctor's in the house. I'm going to get down to him. He's been in bands. And we all know that it comes down to, you can learn songs all you want. You can sit in the garage or the basement or wherever the hell it is and rehearse all you want. But getting out on stage is really where it comes together, because it's like the playoffs. Your mistakes are most accentuated there when people are watching, and that's how you learn. So definitely the case. Going down here more in your comments. Van used to say, TV sound down and turn up the sound on the radio. The Van, will there ever be another one like him? And it's interesting, the Bills, and their game callers, it's been interesting through the years because you had Van Miller for so long, really over the course of 5 separate decades, was Van in the booth. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And, of course, he retired in 2004. We lost him in 2016. And he just had an edge to his voice and the way he called the games. And when we lost him, of course, I don't know what had happened at that point, but I think Murph took over for him. And, of course, John Murphy was the analyst for Van Miller at the end. But it's interesting. If you go back, and it's on YouTube, you can watch and listen to Van's call of the second half of the comeback in the 93 wild card game. And it's interesting because there are not one and not two, but 3 analysts in the booth, a couple of which didn't know what the hell they were talking about, that would step on Van trying to call the game. But I believe after we lost Van, John Murphy at that point may have taken over the game calls. I actually don't know that, but I know, of course, that was the case as we went along. And then whoever may have been doing the analyst position in the booth, along with him, had changed at times. But then we got Eric Wood. Eric has been great. Eric is the perfect analyst in the booth. But then, regrettably, John Murphy suffered his health problem 3 years ago and was unable to continue in the booth. So the Bills staff journalist, Chris Brown, takes over. And, of course, we know Chris from One Bills Live, of course, which is a daily situation and so forth. And that's been the case now with Chris Brown calling the games. He doesn't really give me the Van feeling. And since all of you are here, I will let you know my true dream is to end up being the radio voice of the Buffalo Bills. And as I go through this podcast and develop my abilities in speaking with you, somehow, some way, I hope to get a shot at being able to talk to somebody associated with the Bills and get a chance at that job, because I would love to call the games for the Bills. And I might as well throw in at this point, since everybody's here now, a week from Wednesday night on October 1st, I will be live and I will have a special guest, Mr. Arthur Moats, former Bills linebacker who went on to play with the Steelers. Bill should have hung on to him. He went to the Steelers. He got paid there. And then, of course, he had another year with the Arizona Cardinals, and he is, of course, retired at this point. He's got a great podcast. Go check out his post-game after this game here. I love him on camera. He's gregarious. He's got great takes. Just a fun listen. I'm going to have him on the show, and we are going to ask him a lot of questions, talk about the Bills, talk about the NFL and so forth. Guys, put it on your calendar. I'll be getting some stuff out on social media talking about it, but that is coming. We will have Arthur Moats on the show. To continue here with these comments that I missed, we've got Charles Stone again. YouTube has the Christmas Day doubleheader, and we can be thankful for that, and I suppose that they are not going to be charging for that. I think that's the one thing that the NFL lost out on, is when they were giving some of these games, like one game a season, to Peacock, forcing you to go subscribe to it. And it's like, I'll if it's not the Bills, I'll just watch the replay of it or something of that nature. I don't feel like subscribing to something that I have to cancel right after. It's good to see that the NFL is doing this, because when you have as much or more money than either Disney or the Catholic Church, you should be a little bit kinder and not charge people just to be able to watch this greatest of sports. But that's good to hear. Yeah, Fume drummer Al Michaels should have retired already. Yeah, Al, is, and of course, it's one of these things where, of course, he called the miracle on ice, of course, in 1980 with the U.S. hockey team in the Olympics defeating the Russian team, or the Soviet Union as it was at that point. So, and then, of course, some of us might have got a little bit tainted with him because, of course, it was his call when the Bills lost to the Giants in Super Bowl 25 also. And Al, of course, has been great. He's had a style. But I've just noticed an arrogance / bitterness with him, and especially so when he first moved to Amazon, because Amazon was not getting very good games. They had a lot of crap games early on, and so it got difficult to listen to him. And of course, when that's paired with Kirk Herb One Way Street. Anyway, I listened to a lot of games without sound. And what I will point out to you guys, if you are an NFL Sunday ticket holder, and of course that is through YouTube / YouTube TV, you can of course watch all the games, and of course you can record every single one of them if you have a YouTube TV account along with your Sunday ticket, which is great. Now, I'm going to tell you what to do here precisely. And I've even got the, where the hell is the remote here? This is the Roku remote that I use for YouTube TV. And if you go to your settings for that and go to audio, you have a choice of having selecting the digital format in which you're receiving the audio. Now, most of the games broadcast, I think all of them, on the Sunday ticket are done in surround sound. And that surround sound, if you're familiar, it actually would involve having really 5 speakers. And there is a center speaker involved in the sound mix. You guys that are musicians out there, rock doctor, fume drummer, you'll know that. Probably a lot of you others will also. So when you're watching the games, I would normally have our audio set to where the digital signal would be on auto. Whatever your system is able to receive in terms of its bandwidth capability, it will put out there. But if you change it to stereo, and then you get into the game and pause once and bring it back and so forth, what ends up happening is if you have the stereo setting, that center speaker drops out. And when the center speaker drops out, you lose most of the narration on the commercials, and the announcers are gone. You can hear the crowd, and you can certainly hear the referees making the calls, but the announcers are gone. And check on that and do that. I do that religiously when I am watching games on the Sunday ticket. Of course, not sometimes with the Bills. If I can get rid of the announcers, that's usually a good thing. But yes, indeed. There's the rock doctor in the house. Fine guitar player. Taught me a lot about what I know about playing guitar back when we were kids, working at a nursery, and the kind where plants were growing, and not the kind you can smoke though, but we did have our fun back there. We got Lockport dude in the house, and that is cool. From you guys around the area, I did grow up in Western New York. I grew up in Newfane, and if you don't know where that is, a lot of people do know where Olcott, or Olcott, sometimes it's pronounced, which is right on the lake. My dear mother lives right on the lake down there, right across from Kroll Park, which a lot of you know. So I did grow up in the area, used to ride bikes by the orchards and all of that, so I knew it. But nice little mini break before the Saints come marching. Excuse me, and you know that's the truth, because the Bills not only have that early bye, but you have these mini buys built in. And of course, the first mini buy is from this Thursday game, when you do now have the entire weekend and the next week. And the Bills will have another one of those. I believe they play Pittsburgh on a Thursday night. Oh, is it Pittsburgh or Houston? Guys, check the schedule for me. But it's around that point of the season, and I do believe that will be an away game. And I didn't think, maybe that's wrong. I don't know if teams play 2 Thursday nights, but I think there's something with the schedule about that. But back to the point, certainly the Thursday night games present this mini-bye situation, and the Bills definitely could use that at this point. In regard with Fume Drum again, how are you putting so much stock in Max Hairston? He hasn't done anything since the draft. Well, I'm putting stock in the fact that he has speed. And what we did see from him during training camp was recovery speed. And recovery speed is something we don't have in our corners right now. Now, it's great that you've got Christian Benford, who is a paid corner and is very good. And again, when you talk about differences in speed in the NFL, yes, you could have a 4-3-4-4 receiver. For example, Waddle or Hill, like tonight. And you could have a defensive back that runs maybe a 4.6, maybe even a 4.7. I don't know what Benford's speed coming out was. But a lot of times that speed differential can be altered, can be helped, can be mitigated, if you will, by anticipation. Because if you see what's going to occur and you can react to it more quickly, if you're reacting more quickly, you're on the way to that spot faster. And if you don't react as quick, then it takes you longer to get to that spot because you don't quite have the speed. Now, I don't know how Max's anticipation will be. We have to see that. I am just saying with Max that he does have the speed. And of course, he ran the 4.29 at the combine. But you heard it said there, and you heard it said by a lot of people that have looked at him, both his Kentucky tapes and, of course, what he did in training camp, that it's one thing to have 4.29 speed at the combine from the starting line and going through, but to actually look like you can actually employ that speed out on the football field, that is something different. And I think Max has that. And I believe the reason we have Max Hairston is for just that purpose, to be able to counter the speed that we see in some of the teams that we face a lot of. I mean, Waddle and Hill, certainly. Garrett Wilson, he's fast. We saw him last week. Of course, Zay Flowers is quick. And of course, if the Chiefs get him back, Xavier Worthy, of course, and then Rashee Rice, and get him back, then he'll have to wait to come back, even though we've got the classless and arrogant and unthinking Chiefs players wearing the free number 4 shirt. The guy injured people. You shitting me? Have a little bit of class. A little bit of class. But how much class can you have when you used to be Travis Kelce and now you're going to be Travis Kelce Swift? Anyway, let's move on. All right, you're wrong, I'm wrong. Oh, that's just your handle. You put stock in Hairston because of his speed. Exactly. He instantly becomes the fastest cornerback in the group. His speed would have made a difference tonight and versus the Ravens. That's why you put stock in him. Thank you very much. And that's really the point. And again, that's speed that is not just straight line speed that you see at the combine. It's speed that actually gets employed on the field. And he does look that fast. And I think it will make a difference. I really do. Certainly he's going to have to learn. There's going to be times where it'll be tough. Let's move on here. Fume Drummer is back. New punter and holder, the kick. Fuck from the start. Yes, we had that one there. That's where I messed up there and jumped down on the comments. I'm still getting good at this, but you guys are sticking with me, and I do appreciate it so very much. If you're new in the house, tell me where you're from. Tell me where you're coming from. Give me your comments. Go ahead and hit like on this video. Go ahead and do a subscribe. I'm trying to get my subscriptions up there so we can be even more visible. I think I'm 776 last I knew. Looking for that lucky 777 and onward. So please go ahead and subscribe if you're on the channel. It just takes a nanosecond to do it. I don't want to push that so much, but I do have to ask because my producer tells me to do so. Now, I'm sorry, I'm my own producer, but nonetheless, it still holds. Let's move on here. You're wrong is back with another. The Bills' approach to offense in the middle of the game is simply way too conservative. Too many tight formations on neutral downs leading to too many third and longs. Yes, I had that in my notes from the start. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're trying to establish the run. You're trying to be a running team. And I'm sure the idea is to try to wear down this Dolphins defense. Now, of course, the Dolphins defense has played a ton of plays. A lot of their guys had already seen 99 snaps before they even got to this game. And it's a Thursday, so it's a short week. And they traveled. And so the thought process is, that, okay, we can wear these guys out. And certainly I'm a believer in go ahead and try to win these games. But don't make it the idea of showing everything in your bag and trying to score. Yeah, of course you want to score. Don't let me get that wrong. But you want to control the game also. And to the extent that you can do that, do it. And I believe the Bills thought they could do that. But what they saw was the Dolphins calling their bluff. The Dolphins were desperate. You saw more run blitzes, and you saw situations where they just didn't believe that the Bills would be in that tight formation and throw. And but at times you had our first 2 touchdowns to the tight ends. Some of those were out of tight formations, and that reminds me, dear Lord, Jackson Hawes on that reverse motion behind Josh slips and comes down to one hand, and that was like maybe a half a second or less away from him actually ending up colliding with either the snap or Josh. But that's the play where he chips and then gets outside, and Josh does the push throw for that touchdown. So I like Jackson Hawes a lot. And I believe Jackson Hawes, because of his ability to block, and because, and this may be a point to counter your wrong on this particular point, that if you have teams thinking that when you've got Jackson Hawes in the lineup, that he is in there because of his extremely good blocking ability, but you have him chipping and then stepping into the flat or an open zone, I mean, the guy's catching the ball, he gets yards after catch, and that tells me that this could be a Bills version of Travis Kelce as this goes along and develops. And Travis Kelce, Swift, of course, or not so Swift, or football player. Well, actually, when he was on the goal line last Sunday against the Eagles, he forgot he was playing football, and he played volleyball for a second. Well, we thank you for that anyway. We'll accept that anytime. But yes, I agree with that, the conservative approach and so forth. I think what we want to see is the Bills go out with a passing game with the receivers. We got some speed in the outside now. Elijah Moore looks great. Joshua Palmer only had the catch tonight. He's not being exploited as much yet. But I think the thing we have to remember when we're making statements like this is that these games are not all playoff games. They're certainly important. We want the number 1 seed. You want to win every single one you can. But it's all going on film. And to the extent that you can keep this stuff off film for some portion of the season before getting it out of your bag, when you go ahead and face the teams you need to face in order to get the number 1 seed and win those games. Guys, I'm telling you what, they've got some shit put away in the back room, and it says, do not open until Chiefs. Just like Christmas presents. Do not open until Chiefs. I'm telling you guys, they're laying for them. They are laying for the Chiefs. And besides the first game, of course, that was versus the Ravens, with these manageable games of Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, and Falcons. Falcons are looking good. Then you've got the bye, and then you've got the Panthers. I mean, look, if you can win these games by trying to be conservative for a time and not pull this stuff out of the trick bag, keep it under wraps as long as you can. And as long as you're winning and winning like this, and yeah, I was going nuts just like you were. I was like shouting, slamming the table and so forth. I did not mute that. I just didn't make a sound. Yeah, I felt the same way as you guys. Like I said, there's no way I could do. I know a lot of content creators will sit and actually do a broadcast that they're recording during the game. Of course, you can't show the game, but they have the sound of the game on. And one of the guys that's the best in the world of doing this is content creator TD Finns, who's a Dolphins creator who has a huge subscription base, and he is absolutely intense and is utterly entertaining when he does those game casts. I'll have to watch and see what he thought of tonight's game. You always have to catch him on that, but I just get too pissed and too violent, and the expletives fly. If of course you're familiar with the Christmas Story, a lot of my game expletives are still hanging somewhere over Lakes Huron, Erie, and Ontario, just sitting there in the mist from years and years of this. So, quite certainly. Thanks, Charles Stone. Yes, Houston is the next mini buy, exactly. And of course, that Houston game will be the furthest the Bills travel this entire season. And it's only one time zone away. It's the only time they even leave the Eastern time zone to play football. Guys, this season is set up for the Bills to do very, very well. And what we have to take from this game tonight, including, of course, all the foibles we're talking about, the issues with the secondary, the issues with tackling, the issues with lack of speed in the secondary, the issues with guys getting wide open. I mean, how do you not have 3rd and 14 covered? Or how do you not have 4th and 5 covered there at the end before the interception? But they are hard to win. And understand that what we see at the beginning of the year with this team or any of these teams, it's all developing. It's all growing and developing. They need to grow each and every week and need to understand what's going on and so forth. We need to hear more. I mean, Taron Johnson was nicked up coming into this game, and we knew, Benford took a hit during the game. These are not excuses, but it's hard, and they're all still getting their act together. I'll have to see how Cole Bishop did. I didn't hear his name called a lot tonight. I saw him pretty aggressive in some run fits towards the line of scrimmage, but we'll have to see what the film shows about that. And let's move on to a couple more comments. All right, we'll get down there here. Reed Ferguson, of course, does all the long snapping. He's been the solid component and the steady component with the Bills for years and years now. Obviously, the two new components are the holder, who is new as the kicker is. The holder, Cameron Johnston, the punter, is newer. So that will take some stuff going on. All right, we got some locations here. Charles is Warren, Pennsylvania, an hour and a half south of Buffalo. I know where Warren, Pennsylvania is when I was touring with a Bob Seger tribute band that was based in South Jersey. Yeah, I did a lot of driving. We played in Warren at, Charles, you might know the name of the amphitheater. It's like this big kind of stone-looking amphitheater in Warren. And I remember... I think there was an end-of-the-world thunderstorm there at that show that night. But, I know Warren very, very well. All right, we've got some more guys. Fabrizio is in the house. Rome, New York, 3 hours east of Let's Go Buffalo. First third quarter drive and last touchdown were acceptable. Looked rough for 49 minutes. Well, that's the case. And I did not wait around for McDermott's presser to find out what he thought about this game. Some of you might have already seen it. It'll be interesting to what he has to say about it. The thing I take from it, trying to look at the positive, is if you have all those problems, but you're still able to win a division game, and listen, you cannot put enough emphasis on the notion of a division game. Division games are different. They just are. And then you had a desperate team coming in here tonight, needing to have its season make any kind of meaning. And a coach who's definitely on the hot seat. And certainly for good reason. I don't think McDaniel is a leader of men. His pressers don't impress me at all with his ability to actually communicate with people. He meanders and so forth. But that was a desperate team. So the fact that they won the game and won it by 10, looking rough for 49 minutes, is what the positive is. Because you go back and look at the Patriots dynasty years and go back and look at some of those scores. Guys, they played a lot of close games. Their ability wasn't so much to dominate people throughout an entire course of a game. It was more about the ability to know what it took to win at the right moments. And a lot of this is timing. A lot of it is definitely timing and during the course of the game in order to get these things accomplished. So that's why I take this as a positive in terms of the Bills could go out and look kind of, flat or rough or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't call it so much flat. I think it was somewhat conservative. And I think it was perhaps trying to sort of continue the script from the Jets last week. And of course, the Bills were at the Jets, able to carry out that script and win by 27, essentially. The garbage time touchdown to make it a 20-point win is what it is. But I think the Bills had a thought, especially a thought, when they had to flush that game immediately and get ready for the short week, but it was at home, not away. And it was versus the Dolphins, who decidedly looked much worse than either of the Jets or the Patriots in the first two games, that I think there was the thought that we could continue this script. And certainly the Jets, present a fairly good defense and so forth. And really, I don't think the Jets and the Dolphins are that far apart. Truly. I mean, you could draw a lot of comparisons. And I think the Bills tried to take in that same script, but you had a much more desperate Dolphins team tonight. And I think that is the reason that we saw this turn out like it did. But again, the good thing I'm taking from it is that you can play rough, as Fabrizio says, 49 minutes, but you still win the game. Looking at him more here. Fume Drummer. If you get on the radio about the Bills, you won't be able to use the F-bomb. Oh yes, absolutely. No, if I'm calling the game, basically, if I got into that booth, what I'm going to do to the best of my ability is recreate Van Miller. Van Miller is the voice of the Bills still now, even having been gone for 2003 or 4 was his last season, so 21, 22 years. He is still, and at this point, still now, he is called about 75% of the Bills' games, or maybe closer to 60. And yes, I would try to emulate Van Miller to the extent possible. And we'll see. We'll see. Stranger things have happened. I look forward to the opportunity if it ever comes. Win is a win. Defense will become more of a unit. Yeah, that's definitely the case. And not only do you have a situation where you've got some new combinations of guys, and of course we have to realize that NFL defense is extremely complicated. The Bills don't run as much man coverage. They run more now than they used to. But when you're running man coverage, of course, the problem is your back is turned to the quarterback. Now, yes, in man coverage, you can send more. You can send 5 or maybe even 6 at times if you're manning people up. But if you're against Josh Allen and he gets by those 5 or 6 rushers and you're playing man and those corners have their back turned to it, I mean, Josh can, just ramble, have a conversation on his phone going down the field with nobody nearby him. But if you're talking about playing zone, and of course you have to understand that people talk about man versus zone, and it's not a black and white thing like this, because a lot of folks think zone coverage is, if you're talking about quarters or, Tampa 2 or the 2 high or single high. I mean, we know in each of those zone concepts, there's weak spots, of course. They're just built into that concept. But what it would infer is that this area of grass is where you cover, and you cover this area of grass, and over here you cover that area of grass. And if you want a pure definition of what zone coverage is, that is accurate. If a man comes into that area, you're covering him. But what really is happening is you've got what's called zone match coverage in the NFL, where you've got rules. And I would highly recommend, if you want to learn more about this, go to Cody Alexander's channel, and it's called Match Quarters. And he is a defensive specialist. He was a coach on the college level. He is an expert. You have to sometimes slow the video down to follow it. But he will teach you all of these concepts where basically you've got 2 boxes, a box of 4 and a box of 3. And of course, you'll have either Mike or Sam linebacker are involved in both of those. You've got the 2 corners and the 2 safeties. And there are rules. For example, if you've got a back going into the flat, the corner is going to go on him. Safety will pick up the vertical. So zone match isn't so much about zone. It's about matching up using a set of rules to determine where your defenders should be based on what they're reacting to in the initial reads. And it's hard as shit to learn. I mean, let's face it, it's difficult to do that because you do not have time to think. You have to instantly react to what you're seeing. And it's this kind of learning that's going on with that secondary. McDermott is still the safety whisperer. It's going to be all right. The secondary is going to be all right. Again, the biggest thing I'm taking from this game tonight is the fact that the Buffalo Bills managed to pull out a win in the situation where it didn't look very good. I mean, I didn't see Superman. I saw Clark Kent. He even had his glasses on with the visor. And Cook was a beast at times, and then he was leased at times also. We had problems stopping outside zone. We had problems covering. We had problems tackling. All of those. But the fact is that they still won the game. That's really how you're building a championship team, because when you're able to learn how to win in those situations, that's it. Let's continue here. Fabrizio's in here. The laces were in. Oh, okay. That was at the beginning of that kick, you're saying. The laces were facing Prater, I believe, I assume was what you're saying. And, that could be a factor, because if we're looking at the ball from above here, and the kicker's foot is coming in. Now, I've got the laces in the bottom. You're looking at the end of the ball. Well, if that kicker's coming in with a kick like this and puts a spin on that ball, unlike a golf ball, the football is not balanced. This is why guys in golf can actually hit a cut or hit or also called a fade, or hit a ball that's coming in at you, or whatever way you want to hit that ball. Well, the golf ball is symmetrical and well balanced, so it's whatever force is being put on it by the golf club. But the football is not. It is not balanced. The laces are on one side, and those laces make a huge difference. In fact, for example, when we saw some of Bass's kicks when he came back for the one preseason game versus the Bucks, and we saw a lot of those kicks sailing. They would go up and end up this way and starting to either fade or pull. Well, what's going on there is if the ball is not hit quite as hard, which was the case with Bass on that night, then you will see those laces actually pull that ball one way or another, because a slight force throwing it one way or the other will accelerate it in that direction because the ball is not balanced. But in this case, if the laces were facing Prater tonight on that kick, and he caught those laces such that it imparted this huge spin to the ball, that would definitely explain why that kick was an order of magnitude outside the goalposts. And we'll probably hear more about that as we go along here. John Sanders is in the house. Chiefs always have been good at doing that. Yeah, absolutely. As far as how they're able to, if you're referring to pulling out games or and so forth, but in the ability to sense how to win, and if they demonstrated that ever, they demonstrated that last season with all the wins they pulled off that were so close. But again, go back and look at their early playoff history. How many times were they down 21-3, 21-0, 3 scores, and then they would just come back in the second half? And a lot of that is about definitely just the attitude and so forth. Hume Drummer, Newfane to Orchard Park must have been a 1-hour drive at least. Yeah, in fact, the last game I attended, because I do not live in Western New York now. The last game I attended was actually several years ago at the Ralph, and we drove up there. It was a 1:00 kick against the Dolphins, and this was actually before. I think it was in 2015. Now, I have seen the Bills. I'm in Southeast Michigan, so I have seen the Bills play a number of times here. Of course, 2 weeks in a row with the Cleveland snow game that was moved to Detroit, and then on the Thanksgiving Day game. And I actually met Eric Wood on that Thanksgiving Day at the Bills tailgate we had going on. And I'm tall, and he was a little taller. It's a big man. Very cool. Houston is furthest west of the Bills travel, but some other games are further than Houston. Yeah, certainly. When the Bills go down to play Miami, definitely. But the time zone thing is so big because it makes it difficult at times. John Sanders, pass rush is your biggest concern. Dolphins had 3 backups of the O-line in. Yes, they did. I think there was a partial emphasis because of how the Dolphins themselves had been doing thus far this season. And if you check the numbers, to his time to throw and his going for the first reads were way higher and way lower. That is, that he was taking longer to throw, and he was not going to his first read more often this season thus far. You saw that change tonight. He was back to getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds. I mean, I think the Dolphins obviously saw what was going on with the pass rush last week, and they only got to him once tonight. They did get him off the spot a few times, which that helps a lot when you're playing to it, just getting him off the spot and getting him out of the timing of that particular play. But yeah, it is. And again, as I said earlier in the show tonight, is that pass rush, and we always talk about edge rushers as being the important part of it. They certainly are. But really the important thing is the interior pass rush. Because when you have interior pass rush that forces linemen to come in and condense that pocket, this is what allows your outside guys to get in more. And the other thing I'm hoping Ryan Nielsen is getting with our guys, and I'm seeing it a bit more, Because last year, how often did we see the Bills pass rush like go racing around the tackle and end up, 5-7 yards behind the passer? No. Don't do that. You've got to compress, not go past. I mean, if you're Abdul Carter or Micah Parsons or even Von Miller in his prime, the faster, smaller edges that are not 6'7", but they're more like 6'2", maybe 6'1". They're not 268 or 273 pounds. They're like 230. Yeah, these guys are faster. The bendy guys that can get low and get around a tackle and can get in and get pressure. But the Bills have not had that kind of player. They tried to execute that kind of pass rush with that kind of player. But it's really not possible to pull that off unless you've got those kind of speed guys. And instead, what the Bills have now, which I think is a better situation, is you've got compression-style ends, which are going to use power, set the edge well, and do converting speed to power and getting into the quarterback and aiming more towards the pocket than rather than going around trying to get into the pocket. And we've got that style of edge rusher now. I mean, Groot is that style. Joey Bosa is that style. Epinesa, he's not quite that size, but certainly. And Landon Jackson is certainly that size. And, of course, we haven't seen him on the field yet. Healthy scratch each week. Interested to see, actually, when he gets some opportunity on the field. I have a feeling this is a guy that, under the bright lights, might do a little bit better. It's just a feeling I have. I'm not basing it on anything. But I think we definitely need Ed Oliver back in the lineup. But in the meantime, it's good to get the younger guys, get these kids out there, get Deion Walker and TJ Sanders out there. And we saw some different combinations tonight. Even saw Solomon in again, Javon Solomon in a playing more of a three-tech role than an edge at times. We know we saw that last week. Thought I might have seen it once tonight. Daquan was out there with Deion to start the game, Deion Walker. So Daquan being more the one tech, I believe that Ryan Nielsen's plan with the pass rush is even if you guys have guys playing in a spot where a one tech would operate, basically in an A gap or inside shade of the guard, whatever that may be. That is a position where a one tech would play, but I think Ryan Nielsen likes three techs. He likes penetrating types of pass rushers. And the two different philosophies in defensive linemen in one respect is whether it's a one gap or a two gap type of player. One gap, which is what Ryan Nielsen likes, is a guy that is going to penetrate in that gap. And he's attacking it right off the bat. And he's able to do that because he's got great hand violence, good speed. I mean, you see that with both of the new guys, Walker and Sanders, with those traits. In a two-gap situation, you have a defensive lineman that is going to react to which way the offensive lineman in front of him is going to move, and then get his hands on him and move him around one way or the other, and basically react to that movement. The idea being is if you get a guy moving in one direction, you help him along further in that direction. But Daquan Jones is more of a one-tech stylist. And that was what they were trying to do with Dwayne Carter and have him majoring, as it said, in a one-tech role rather than a three-tech. But truthfully, Ryan Nielsen, and you saw him on camera tonight, he looks like if Tom Selleck grew a beard and was a football coach. But Nielsen is a proponent of putting three techs along the line. He's all about aggressive, pressure, penetrating style defensive linemen, which is why you don't see, and a lot of people cry and scream for it, looking for the Bills to have this big nose tackle in the center, the immovable stump the fire hydrant that's going to stuff those lanes. But Nielsen's philosophy has always been different. It is to have 3 techs and a far more aggressive approach to what you're doing. How are we doing with the time? My goodness, we're getting into this 2 hours. We've got 62 in the house. Now, guys, I'm really astounded and pleased that so many of you have chosen to spend your time on the channel here tonight. I thank you so much. Again, I don't want to keep on repeating it, but if you're here and you're new, just hit that subscribe button, and you'll be getting this kind of content. Of course, I'll mention again, a week from Wednesday night, October 1st, 8 p.m., be going live, and I will have a special guest on the show, Mr. Arthur Moats, former Bills linebacker, Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker, and of course, he's the legend killer. He is the man responsible for getting the best wood ever on Brett Favre and essentially ending Brett Favre's starting streak, consecutive start streak, and in my opinion, essentially ending Brett Favre's career. So Arthur Moats will be on the show. That's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Put that on your calendar. I'll be getting some stuff out about it. And of course, you'll see that stuff. Go ahead and smash subscribe, smash like, and we'll keep the Ralph Rant going strong here. Fume Drummer is asking Charles Stone, what does that mean? I don't know what you're referring to, but go ahead and you guys keep that conversation going. I love the points we're making here. And John Sanders, you got that right. Pass rush was pathetic. Yes, indeed. Excuse me, guys. Soldiers and Sailors Park, used for music in the park. Very cool. Let's go on. Fabrizio, the win did look like the old New England-esque thing. And thank you for catching on to that point, because you often really didn't see. I mean, the Patriots were great at winning ball games at the end. And, you know, my whole feeling about the Bills is the fact that, of course, we want them and think they should, based on having the quarterback that we have and based on building up sort of the length of time that the team has been good, to go out and crush every opponent. And certainly that's possible, you know, each and every game. But really, if you go back and look at how New England even won a number of the Super Bowls they won. I don't think they ever crushed anybody. Those games were always close. And it's one thing to be great in terms of being able to crush teams and so forth, but you have to learn how to win and have to learn how to win close games. And that's what they were very, very good at, which again is why I like what happened with this game so much tonight. It's just a great development to see that the Bills are able to do this even when they play like this. Let's continue on here. Our defense always shows up. That 25-game turnover battle isn't a fluke. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the turnovers have to be a part of it. And what I get tired of is hearing people explain, well, the Bills, you know, the only reason their defense go so good is they get so many turnovers. Are you shitting me? That's one of the things that makes a defense great. I mean, however you get it done. And that was great tonight, and they could have been talking about that. Because Bernard baited Tua on that throw, for certain. Moving on here. James Romer, all right. Positive all day long. They played 2 games in 5 days. That's absolutely the truth. And how much game planning can you really do? The guys probably, I don't know what they did on Monday this week. I don't know if they bothered watching the film because they just had to flush that game and move on. And then you need rest, and the rest has to be extra special because you're playing basically in just a few days, and then you don't have a long time for install, and you've got guys coming in and so forth. So to be able to pull that off tonight, I'm happy with it. All right, we've got some new names going here. Trevino, the Bills Mafia. We got the tank now in clean house. Thank Bills Mafia. We get the tank now in clean house. Okay, that's. I believe you're talking about the Dolphins, I guess. So, if that's the case, that might have to occur with them. We'll have to see. Fabrizio, missing Oliver showed Milano missile style tackling may have helped too. Well, that's certainly, and also the just the experience on the field, definitely. But on the same token, it was great that we've got the youngsters out there and getting the minutes that they are getting. I know we might have not seen any of them make any big plays, perhaps, but these minutes are absolutely invaluable. And we got to get through your comments here. Palmer was MIA tonight. Well, I think he had one catch, and in terms of being MIA was Josh, looking for him a lot. I know Elijah Moore did have a great game. I knew there was a concentration on the tight ends tonight. I mean, he was throwing to Kincaid to start the game. He actually got Hawes involved in it. And I think we even saw some more of the 13 personnel out there tonight. That's basically 3 tight ends and 1 back. And I think the 3 tight end situation, was even with Alec Anderson. I saw Alec Anderson on the field at one point with Jackson Hawes. Was Dawson Knox even playing tonight, for example? I mean, I don't think we saw anything to him. On the kick, just a complete shank. Yes, absolutely. It looked like the day Ray Finkel kick, looked like the Ray Finkel kick in Ace Ventura, a boot plus a bad hold. Yep, that was as bad as it could be. And again, that leads me to believe that there was something more to that than just an absolute miss. James, I love how Josh is reading the defense this year. The play to Shavers was great. Yes, it was. And the relaxed Josh we're seeing, and the arm angles that he's getting, but he's just being very particular at getting balls to people, and I really love seeing that. That was awesome. To wrap things up, what have we learned tonight? Well, we learned that there's a ways to go on the defensive side, that perhaps we can't be as conservative as we think we can on offense. But I think we also learned that this is a team that maybe has that Patriot-esque, to use the term coined earlier, that Patriot-esque sort of feel where games could get close and games could get down, but there's just a surety that you're going to pull something off. And for anything else you could say, that looked a lot like a lot of the Patriots' wins during the Brady dynasty. And now we've got a new Brady dynasty going. I'm going to get through all of these. Be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. Yes. And we're moving up on the 2-hour mark. Guys, it's 1:34 a.m. here in the East. You've been sticking with me so long here, and I'm not going to keep you too much longer. Hoyt is going to add another flavor to the defense when the season starts. Yeah, when his season starts. Yes, absolutely. And again, that's the other thing I'll say about this game tonight and the ones coming up. The Bills have stuff in the bag. They've got sauce in the bottle that they're not ready to apply to the Wings yet. They're saving this sauce. They're saving some stuff. They are. There is a mission to win this number 1 seed and to go and win the Super Bowl this year. And I still believe the possibility of them going undefeated very much exists. And it's just because of the way they were able to will themselves into position to win this game and, of course, what happened against the Ravens. Hear that? The dogs agree with me. Well, anyway, guys, we're hitting 2 hours here, so I'm going to shut it down for tonight. I want to thank you so much for spending so much of your evening with me tonight. And it was such a blast talking to you. So cool having so many in the house. Just remind you that if you want more of this, just go ahead and smash subscribe. I'm looking forward to getting with you again this week when we learn more about what we saw in the film and so forth. But until then, as my good friend Mr. Charles Stone, who was the very first viewer of my very first live show that had a beginning that was kind of messed up, as he said, and I'll put it up on the screen, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. This is the Ralph Rant. I am the Ralph. Thanks so much for being with me. I'm out. Have a great week and enjoy this awesome weekend of football that we don't have to worry about the Bills losing during. Go Bills! Ralph Rant, out.